Some scandal and intrigue regarding the Iowa caucuses. Of course, the Iowa caucuses will take place today, but in the lead up to it, everyone was expecting the Des Moines Register poll. This is a coveted poll that everyone was looking forward to, just analyzing to figure out who the likely winner in the Democratic primary will be in Iowa. And here's what we found out. CNN and the Des Moines Register chose not to release this key poll because Pete Buttigieg's campaign was concerned that there was a human error in conducting the poll. So via tweet, it was confirmed that our campaign received a report from a recipient of the Iowa poll call, raising concerns that not every candidate was named by the interviewer when asked who they support. We shared this with the organizations behind the poll, who conducted an internal investigation and determined not to release it. We applaud CNN and the Des Moines Register for their integrity. So what happened? Turns out that the poll was conducted by telephone, and it was conducted from a call center where operators read from a prepared script of candidates' names to determine who a voter plans to support. Apparently, one operator had enlarged the font size on their computer screen, perhaps cutting off Buttigieg's name from the list of options, and that's according to two people familiar with the incident who did not have permission to speak about it publicly. So sounds like that's the excuse they're using, that this was a big enough error to decide to scrap the poll altogether. They will not be releasing it.
Okay, so let's talk about why people are scratching their heads over this. So the couple of reasons. Number one, if you believe in political intrigue, if you were trailing in that poll badly, CNN was going to do a whole hour-long special about the poll. You would not want that broadcast right before the election. This is not a great thing about people in general, but it is true that if people get a sense that someone is winning, they are more likely to vote for them. Now, I wish that weren't the case because that makes no logical sense, but people do act that way. In fact, that's why I said the media rigged the last election in favor of Hillary Clinton more than anyone, because they kept putting up superdelegate count when the superdelegates hadn't voted yet. It gave the appearance that she had an overwhelming lead. And we know that that psychological factor helps the person with the lead. So CNN was about not only Des Moines Register poll, but CNN was gonna broadcast the whole nation about how Bernie had a giant lead. And then
you can't do that.
No. So now the second part of it is, so if you were the person who doesn't have that lead, who used to have that lead, Buttigieg, but no longer does and has now slipped considerably in all the polling, Buttigieg, you would not want that special to go on under any circumstances. So I don't know that they had somebody say, hey, maybe I didn't hear Buttigieg's name, and maybe that's a good reason to pull it. I don't know that, okay? But some people are scratching their heads. Now, let's just flip it for a second. Could you imagine if a Bernie Sanders supporter said, I didn't see Bernie's name on the poll?
I can imagine it. I can certainly imagine it.
That the Des Moines Register and the New York Times and CNN would all pull what they were doing.
That I can't imagine.
What they had planned for 4 years in terms of Des Moines Register, the last poll before Iowa. This is their moment in the sun. Right. CNN is going to do an hour-long show that they've already planned. And one Bernie Sanders supporter complained. They would never, ever pull it, and everyone knows it.
No, but hold on. Let's start from like the very beginning of the story. One Buttigieg supporter raised concerns. One.
That's right.
One.
Yes.
And then the Buttigieg camp confirmed, said, hey, we have this one supporter who said this is what happened. They launched an internal investigation. Like, I think it's the right thing to do because you want to be fair. So I'm not even mad at Buttigieg raising the concern. I mean, put yourself in his shoes, I would do the same thing, right? But I do have a problem with this obvious double standard, because how many times have there been issues with polls not mentioning Bernie? How many times have issues been raised, even when it comes to actual voting and what happens to people who vote for Bernie at the polls, right? But no one cares. It doesn't matter if there's like a giant wave of people complaining or finding some sort of injustice in how things are done. There's never any type of internal investigation.
Yeah, people online were joking like, this is Buttigieg asking to see the manager, right? I want to see your manager, okay?
Yeah.
And you know that if you're a certain category of folks and you want to see the manager, it ain't gonna work out for you. If you're another category of folks, it's gonna work out glowingly. And that's what happened here. In this case, it isn't about race at all, it's establishment privilege. So if a progressive complains, they're like, oh, you guys are always complaining. So what, we left you out of the polls, so what? So what? Go cry somewhere else.
So what if we tell everyone that your preferred candidate makes our skin crawl, but we don't give any reason for it? So why are you guys always complaining? What's the problem? Yeah, exactly.
But Buttigieg says, you gotta trust me. You gotta trust me, and you gotta trust my one supporter that it really happened. Based on that, I'm gonna sink the entire, well, the establishment guy asked. There was a report of a one guy maybe, and they sank the whole thing, okay? Now, to back up Anna's point, oftentimes progressives are even left out of polls. At this point, obviously they're not gonna leave Bernie out of a poll that he's leading in. I say obviously, it's only semi-obvious. Anyway, but at the congressional level, at the state level, et cetera, whenever a progressive is running, a lot of times, not every time, not at all, but a lot of times they get left out of polls entirely. They're like, oh, please, you are not endorsed by anyone in the establishment. No, we shall not even put you in a poll. And the progressive candidate, their supporters can complain. It never matters. It always falls on deaf ears. But if an establishment figure has one person who's a maybe, you just crater everything. And last thing, do you know what's happening in the California ballot? It's unbelievable. They went to a new digital ballot. Buttigieg is complaining about this. In the new digital ballot in California, there's only 4 candidates per page, and you're allowed to vote after the first page. And you don't necessarily know that there's a second page. So for the presidential election, the only major candidate on the first page is Elizabeth Warren. Bernie's number 8 on the list. A lot of people won't have any idea that they have to scroll down. They don't know that you have to scroll down. So they might never see Bernie. By the way, it's not a conspiracy. Joe Biden's screwed even worse. He's at number 16.
Well, maybe they'll do something about it then.
No, I'm not kidding. Yeah. That was the best news, was that Biden was at 16. Right. No offense to Biden, I'm not trying to, that's random, right? And I just told you it's not conspiratorial, right? And so I feel bad for Biden. Now, he shouldn't get screwed either, right? But the fact that Biden's at number 16 means somebody might do something about it.
Right, absolutely.
If Biden and Buttigieg were on the first page, nobody would ever do anything about it.
Or Klobuchar, right?
Right.
Exactly. Well, look, let's talk about what we do see from the polls that were put out. And this is from an Emerson poll showing that Bernie is doing really well in the state of Iowa. The poll, which surveyed likely Democratic caucus goers from January 30th through February 2nd, shows Sanders at 28%, followed by Democratic primary rival Joe Biden at 21%. Former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and Senator Amy Klobuchar are at 15%, 14%, and 11% respectively.
And I don't know why you read that. Buttigieg didn't want you to read that. Nah, it's outrageous to give people facts.
He didn't complain to my manager.
Oh, that's the problem. Okay, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Klobuchar. Because I came in at the beginning of this process with Klobuchar, right? But here she is at the end in the top 5 in Iowa at 11%. That is not bad. So I underestimated Senator Klobuchar, and so good for her to have run a super strong campaign. I don't agree with her policies. She's maybe the most conservative Democrat left in the field, so I've got no interest in that. But I'm telling you, to be fair, hell of a campaign from someone I didn't think had much of a chance. Yes, it was aided and abetted by mainstream media who kept pushing her, but still, they pushed a lot of people who didn't make it. And Klobuchar's there at the end. Nice work. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.